this test in the mid, like 4:30 or something like UK time, is when it went live. Much later than they said. They planned to put this 11 UK. That was what they said originally. So way later than they said. One of the servers that was up was in like constant server errors. One of the shards, sorry, was in constant server errors. Just you couldn't do anything. And then the other one, the one that I was fortunate enough to join, was working. So I started about 7 o'clock UK time. The one I was on, at the point I was testing it, no issues whatsoever. Well, no, there were some issues, but there were not like any. You could at least do the test. You could at least tell. There were so few Evocati on this shard that there was about 17 people on this shard, the whole shard, and pretty much all of them were in Orison. So it was it wasn't like this wasn't a load test. And what they are going to do later is they said they want to do some specific stress testing. They said morning time Austin, which will be later on today, UK, to get a load of people testing at the same time, because as we'll get into, performance shard stuff could be quite interesting with this. Things have changed. It is different. And the way that it's different, if you remember the old, this is from a video, this isn't from the Evo test today. This is from an old video. In fact, it's from this video from CIG. This is the old map. And so in the old map, you used to get a tram from the top of the Crusader showroom here, and it used to take you directly to Solanke platform. And then for Siege of Orison, you would run yourself through Solanke. You'd then run yourself, you'd get a tram, or you'd travel to Brushwood, and then Hartmoor, all combination, and then the admin center as well was part of it. That is now different, very different. There is now an arrival center. So you start again on the Orison rooftop, you start there. So you still go up the Crusader showroom rooftop, and then you take a tram and you now go to the arrival center. And so now this is an added space that you go to, which is where the instancing happens. And then you've now only got 3 platforms. We seem to have lost Brushwood. On all the maps in game in Evocati now, we now just have Solanke platform, Hartmoor, and the admin center. But you start, and where the instancing magic happens is at the arrival center. This arrival center is a copy of the shuttle center at Orison. So if you imagine you spawn at Orison, you get the tram or the shuttle, whatever, and it takes you to the shuttle center, and then you take the lifts up to all the landing pads and stuff. It's a copy of that area. So your shuttle arrives here, and you have that. If you imagine it, you might. I don't think I can find a picture of it easily, and I can't show you what it exactly looks like. But if you know what I'm talking about, the shuttle area, you've got multiple shuttle stations normally. Oh dear, and they are taking you in different directions. They take you to the different places in Orison. For this one, they've still actually, because they've just literally copied it, it's still actually got all the names of the other destinations, but effectively there's just the one entrance and exit, this one down here. So you get your tram from the Orison rooftop, it takes you to here. Currently, I'm sure this will change. This is weapons free. You can pull out a gun here currently, and this isn't instance yet. We're not at the instance yet. This is just like an overworld, and it's actually, if you look at the display info text, this is described as like a shuttle overworld or something like that. That's how it's named in display info. So you arrive here. You can arrive. Lots of people could arrive there. People hanging around here. You could currently pull out a gun. So currently, if you were a griefer type person, you might, in fact, we'll borrow a griefer from over here. We'll borrow this guy. You could, in theory, you know how in the old version of Siege of Orison, you'd get to the platform, and then there'd be if you wanted to try and block it off, if you're a bad PvP person, you could literally just stand and this was a huge choke point at the front of the platform. You, in theory, currently, as it is in Evo right now, you could, in theory, just shoot everybody as they got off the tram to this shuttle area. That, I'm sure, will change. There's no way that this will be. There'll be an armistice zone here, I'm sure. I tested this. You're not allowed to shoot people in Evo. You have to agree. I asked somebody to shoot me in the leg, and they shot me in the leg, and I took damage. There's no chance. There's no chance that they allow this. I'd be absolutely shocked if 4.9 goes live and literally you and two friends just murder everybody coming off the tram. There's no way that will happen. Anyway, People though can hang around in this area. This is like an area to kind of get yourself sorted. So imagine this is your staging area. You and your group, you come over to this the elevators, and it's exactly the same as the normal Orison shuttle area. There's this bit where you get off the tram, then you come through, and there's all the elevators. And here is where the magic happens. So you go into an elevator, and this is now using the new transport system. It's got slightly different text, and I'm pretty sure it's the new transport system. And so you get into the elevator. Let's do it like this. Here's your group. You get into your elevator. And then if you had somebody who wasn't in your group, and I did a load of testing. I grouped up with a few people. Let's make them blue. This person is also in your elevator. So say our friend in blue here he's come in the elevator. He's hit the button to go. The button. I think then basically he has control. The elevator will stop. So effectively, the elevator takes you into your instance, which is over here. So you go up or wherever. I mean, I don't really actually think the elevators really go anywhere, but it stops at a stop. These guys, you come over here to your instance. But if it's not your instance, so say our blue friend here, this is his instance. He's pressed on the elevator. He gets out. He comes out here, and then there's basically a little. It's almost like it's just a filler area, basically. But then at the end of this filler building, there is the tram that then takes you to Siege Orison. But this is instance. If, though, Mr. Blue Friend here gets out and it's his instance, we try and get out, or say I try and get out, immediately you don't have permission for this instance, and then it will reposition you back to the arrival center. So if you get off on the wrong stop, in theory, CIG said, I think in the patch notes, that the thing will be red like this. The edge of the door will be red. It wasn't red for me. Whoever's floor it was always green. There was like a green light almost around the side. Fairly gamey. Some people aren't going to like that. That might be immersion breaking. But there's a light around the thing. But if you get off on and you're not in a group with somebody else, it will kick you out. It will reposition you back to the arrival center. If, though, you are in a group, you're partied up with your friends, you both get out, you get out here, and then you then can just walk through this building, and you then get to another little platform, and you get on another tram. And so then, from your tram, you then do another long journey over to Siege Orison, and this is everything you already know. If you've already done Siege, that's what happens. So you're limited to the amount of people you can fit in a lift? No, you're not limited. That's a great question. You're not limited to the amount of people you can fit in a lift, because what you can do, and what I did, is that I grouped up with somebody. Well, no, so I didn't. I said to somebody who I was doing a load of testing with, Stephen, thank you for your testing. I said, you go up and you go in, so you enter your instance, then add me into a party, which he then did. So then let's do it like this. So we're both green. We're now green in the same party. I then went up a lift, but then it took me to his instance. So in theory, you could have a group of 20 people all coming up on different elevators here. They could all, as in multiple of these can go. And if you're all in the same party, it will all drop you off at the same time. I guess you just have to take it. It probably would just queue the elevators so that you get out. No, I didn't test that, but I did test joining somebody's instance in a separate elevator after they'd already joined. So he was standing there waiting for me. I went up the elevator opened, and I joined my friend. Yeah. What this is referred to in the display info is it's called object container brokered instance. And so as soon as you pass this green door, come out the elevator, you're in or as soon as it opens, maybe, I'm not actually sure exactly what point it kicks in, you are in an object container brokered instance. So that's what it is. That's how it works. What if you leave the party in the instance? Great question. Let's get on to that. Okay, so me and my friend Stephen got into our tram, took our tram over to the first platform, which what we're calling the first one is Solanki platform. This is everything you know. I wonder if I can show you here. So this is one of the Siege of Orison videos they've shown. We don't need it's the same scenario. This was a cinematic thing they did to advertise it, but it's the same thing. You get off the platform and then basically you've got to run your way through. It's effectively a dungeon. So that's the old map. It doesn't now look like this anymore, but you just run through. And as I said right at the start of the stream, some of you missed this, the NPCs were not turned on. The mission wasn't turned on. You arrived at the platform and the NPCs were all just standing around. They didn't respond to you. This wasn't a test of Siege of Orison. This was a test of the instancing. You come off the tram as you always do, and then you get to here. And so what we did, me and Stephen, we ran around here having a look. I actually had to go on my own first, but we ran around. You can still knock the NPCs out, but you can run around. The key thing to say that for this test is that it didn't seem as though you could progress to the next platform. They'd kind of blocked off the building at the end, I think, and so you couldn't play Siege of Orison. It's worth saying that. But what we did test, and this is quite interesting, we had a look around, and then Stephen left the group. So we were now both in the same instance. Stephen had left the group, and so your question will be, well, what happens? Does he get like a 5-second countdown, and then he's repositioned back to the arrival center like what happened before? And the answer actually was no. We continued running around together around the platform. When he'd left my party, he didn't get repositioned immediately. What did happen, though, was when we had enough of that, we got back on the tram, not in a party. We then got back in our tram. We flew back to our little instant start area bit. And there's this bizarre thing. The first time this happened, because I tested this on my own first, I forget, Stephen wasn't with me. The first time, when I passed back from, so I'd gone to Siege of Orison, I then come back, I then passed out of the tram, back onto this kind of starting platform bit, and you seem to lose your instance permission, and then you get repositioned. And so I was then kind of whipped straight back over to the arrival center. And so we couldn't tell, when it happened when both of us were there, when we were both there, as we both moved back off the tram, off the shuttle, back onto this little platform, we were then both repositioned. But it seems as though if you're in a party with somebody and you leave the party whilst in the instance, nothing changes. I wonder if it's like this. As soon as you pass into the instance, you're given permission for as long as you're in the instance. I wonder if as soon as you come in at the start here, you join into this instanced area at the start. I do wonder if you then just have permission to be in this instance, and even if you drop out the party, or say you're like halfway through the game, so say you've done Solanki, you're then on to say you're right at the end, and the party fails or whatever. It doesn't seem to kick everybody out. It seems to just say, well, you've already got permission to be here. We're going to just leave you here. Sounds like how hangers work already. Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Is it seamless during the instance? It's seamless in that you go through an elevator and you're in it. There's no loading screen as you would expect from Star Citizen. The only thing that isn't seamless is that there is this green light around it. And here's another thing that's interesting. So after I'd done a load of testing, I went into this instance area on my own again. I didn't go across to Siege of Orison. I just said, well, I'll go in and I'll try and come out. I'll just leave. I'll try and leave. And currently you can't, once you just like joined this area, this is a bug that will get fixed. You can't, so here's the elevator door with the little panel. You come up to this door. This door on the way out to try and get out is like solid green. So some people, again, aren't necessarily going to love the game nature of this. It looks like that. Like it's a green door with like a green glow over the top of it. And so you come up to that, you try and click on the elevator like I'm trying to do here. My man's trying to press the thing. Can't press it. You can't actually get out of the instance currently. Again, this is a bug. And so again, in order to get out, I did the trick again, like we said. I hopped on the tram, waited for a second, and before the tram left, I hopped back off onto the platform. And again, because of this thing, this seems to be some sort of gate or something's going on here. And I then, by doing that, by hopping onto the tram and hopping off, I lost permission and I was repositioned back to the arrival center. So that's generally how it's working. Some people won't love this concept of just being randomly repositioned, and people just, if you say you're just standing here in the arrival center and then a guy just pops into existence because he's been repositioned. Some people won't love that from an immersion point of view. I think practically they're trying to just come up with something that actually works. How many max party members? They didn't say max party members. They wanted us to test this. I think the patch notes said something like, I can't remember exactly. Maybe it's like 3 to 6. They wanted to test it in small groups. You assume crash recovery will take you back to the arrival center. Great question. Yeah, what happens if you crash? So I was fortunate. I didn't get caught in a server error or anything like that. I probably should have tested Alt F4ing and see what happened. But no, maybe anything that goes wrong whilst you're doing Siege will leave you. Maybe you'll pop back in the arrival center. However, I've got something that they should add to there, I think, if they are going to do that. But yeah, they could reposition in a closed elevator. I think that's possibly a better idea than just popping into existence in the arrival center. Yeah, I think, yeah, that makes sense. Any sound bugs or similar that we've had with instance hangers? No. So I spent a fair amount of time running around the platform. There were no signs of any other players. Or, yeah, like I say, in an instant hangar, sometimes you hear the sounds, sometimes ships just appear in your hangar that aren't in your hangar. There were no signs of that. It's possible the changes they're doing here, and obviously massive changes and improvements to their instancing abilities as a company, possibly that will have an impact on how the hangars work, and possibly it will mean the hangars aren't quite as janky as they are. The major issue, as I said at the start here, was that there was only 17 people on the shard, and so the maximum amount of instances that I hit, this is an interesting part of this. So the maximum maybe amount of instances that I experienced. So let's assume some people went in on their own. Let's assume 6 people went in on their own. Let's assume there was a group of 3, a group of 2, something like that. So what's that? 2, 4, 6. That's about right. The test that I ran, there was only like 9 or 10 instances running because the shard was so low population, because nobody could get on this. There's not many evos anyway. It was a bad time for anybody in the US, and most tests for evos are US time. This was it was like I tested at 7 o'clock UK, so there's not going to be many people on there. The question really will be, how does this all hold up when there's 600 people on a shard? Like, how does it hold up when everybody at the start of 4.9 is doing Siege of Orison and there's that many instances? That's the question. Even with 17 people on the shard, the server FPS for me was not locked to 30. It dipped into the 20s, 27s, 25s at points, even with that few people on there. And so my guess is still the Orison server is managing the instances, would be my guess. I don't really know how. They've not told us how this is going to work. We are guessing. But my worry with this would be, and this could be wrong, my worry would be that the Orison server is still going to be looking after all of this. And therefore, the more of these that spin up, does server FPS just go down and down and down. And so currently what this does, it means that CRG can currently just guarantee your experience. So me and my friend can go through this mission. We flow through it in the way they intend. Nobody is in the past coming up behind us and they're like, why are all the people dead? Like in the past, you'd do Siege of Orison and you'd join in and you'd be like, what's happening? There's nobody here. But in fact, a group was running in front of you and they're already doing it all. That now is done. That's gone. They can design a mission flow and control it because it's your instance. But the question remains, what does this all mean for server performance? Like, are the AI, are the NPCs going to be responding? Or the more of these that spin up, the more instances that spin up, does it tank performance? Some things just to add in here. So, like I said, the travel time is very long. Very long. If you were to die mid-mission, so say you've got to the admin center, you've run the thing through to the admin center, you're here, and you die. Let's turn you on your side so you're dead. There you go. You've died near the end of the mission. Your group didn't manage to save you. Your group's still going on. Let's use green, guys. Your group's still here, but you're dead. I think currently you're being sent all the way back to Orison's hospital. You currently go back absolutely miles. And so from there, you have to go to the Orison rooftop. You then have to get the tram from here. You then go back to the arrival center. You get back in your instance, and then you have to run through the whole thing. I think in an ideal world, CIG, some of you will have thoughts about this. Some of you won't like this. I would prefer it if they had, on the side of the arrival center, done some med beds. I think if you're going to say this is an instance thing, I think they should have said, well, okay, that you can set your spawn at the arrival center, and then if you die, you're not sent all the way back to Orison. That would be my mission flow feedback. It's going to be so punishing if you die near the end of the event to try and join back up. Your group could be just waiting. Say you die on the middle platform, your group will be waiting like 15 minutes for you to get back to them. It's crazy. Maybe even this first area, when you come out of your bed, maybe there's going to be med beds in here. And so worst case scenario, if you die, you could respawn in your instance. I don't know how complicated that gets from an instancing point of view. Maybe there could be med beds in this first instance corridor section. And what I would say is, not wanting to scare anybody here, but considering the bit of a disaster that 4.8 was, and we kind of knew that it was going to be a disaster. We kind of knew that 4.8 was going to be a disaster based on the PTU. We thought they're rushing here. They're really working really hard. And again, let's put it like this. This is a first Evocati test, and they're often very broken. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to fix it up quickly, but let's put it like this. There is quite a lot of fixing that will be required before this goes even to PTU, I think. And then the question is, can they get it through PTU and get it in a performant state before they want to release 4.9?